Hi, I'm Bill, the Domestic Monk. Welcome back to another video, and thanks very much for watching. So, has Joe Biden been excommunicated? If there was ever any doubt about Joe Biden's lack of faithfulness to the teachings of the church, there shouldn't be any longer. For years, Joe Biden has been an outspoken advocate for abortion, gay marriage, and the transing of our kids, all of which are opposed by the Catholic Church. And he put all of these things into overdrive when he served as president. Biden broke from the usual Democratic fence-straddling position of, I'm opposed to it personally, but I don't believe I should force my religious belief on others, to straight-out advocacy for and even using government power to implement policies that oppose church teaching, abortion being chief among them. As a public figure who proclaims to be Catholic, this brings scandal upon the faithful. So what is scandal? The Catechism of the Catholic Church defines scandal as an attitude or behavior which leads another to do evil. The person who gives scandal becomes his neighbor's tempter. He damages virtue and integrity. He may even draw his brother into spiritual death. Now, Biden certainly has had his run-ins in the past with the church due to scandal. Most notably in 2019, while running for the office of President of the United States. Joe Biden was denied communion at a Catholic church in South Carolina over his support for abortion rights. In a news article about the incident, Father Robert Morey, the pastor at St. Anthony Catholic Church in Florence, told the Florence Morning News that he had denied Biden communion because any figure who advocates for abortion places himself or herself outside of church teaching. Holy Communion signifies we are one with God, each other, and the church. Our actions should reflect that. He continued, as a priest, it is my responsibility to minister to those souls entrusted to my care, and I must do so even in the most difficult situations. I will keep Mr. Biden in my prayers. And what was Biden's response? Well, it certainly wasn't one of contrition. I'm not going to discuss that. That is just my personal life. Not surprisingly, the U.S. Conference of Bishops could never quite muster the courage of Father Morey. This is something we've all sadly become accustomed to, as our shepherds seem incapable of even admonishing, much less opposing the woke machine behind Biden, Pelosi, and so many so-called Catholic politicians. The Bishops' Conference wrung their hands over the issue in 2021, even considering drafting a statement to prevent President Biden from receiving communion because of his views on abortion. Then Biden had a meeting with Pope Francis in Rome on October 29th of 2021. Biden came out of the meeting beaming and claiming Pope Francis called him a good Catholic and said he should keep receiving communion. Now, Pope Francis never confirmed any of this, but hey, we all know Joe Biden's incapable of lying, right? Unless his lips are moving, that is. Wasn't he the guy who swore he would never pardon his son? Naturally, the bishops got weak in the knees after that and let the matter drop. However, on January 19, 2025, the day before he left office, Biden was conferred full membership as a Freemason. This, like many of Biden's public policy positions, places him in direct opposition to long-standing church teaching. But unlike those other issues which require the moral courage of a bishop to take pastoral action against him, membership in the Freemasons alone carries with it automatic excommunication. The lodge announcement says that membership was conferred on Biden by the lodge, not that he went through any initiation ceremonies. But hey, there's secret ceremonies anyway, right? I'm sure if push comes to shove, Biden will argue that he really didn't join the organization, but he hasn't denied it either. So what is Freemasonry anyway, and what makes the church so opposed to it? Freemasonry is a parallel religion to Christianity. According to the New Catholic Encyclopedia, Freemasonry displays all the elements of religion, and as such it becomes a rival to the religion of the gospel. It includes temples and altars, prayers, a moral code, worship, vestments, feast days, the promise of reward or punishment in the afterlife, a hierarchy, and initiation and burial rites. Freemasonry is also a secret society. Their members take secret blood oaths that are incompatible with Christianity. According to a Catholic Answers article on Freemasonry, the prospective Mason swears that if he ever reveals the secrets of Masonry, secrets which are trivial and already well known, he wills to be subject to self-mutilation or to gruesome execution. Historically, one of Masonry's primary objectives has been the destruction of the Catholic Church. This is especially true of Freemasonry as it has existed in certain European countries. In the United States, Freemasonry is often considered little more than a social club, but it still espouses a naturalistic religion that contradicts Orthodox Christianity. So now let's take a look at the Church's position on Freemasonry. Catholics have been forbidden to join Freemasonry since 1738, when Pope Clement XII issued a papal bull, which is akin to an executive order from the Pope, banning Catholics from becoming Freemasons. Several subsequent popes weighed in on the issue also, including Pope Benedict XIV in an apostolic constitution in 1751, Pope Pius VII in an apostolic constitution in 1821, Pope Leo XII in an apostolic constitution in 1826, Pope Pius VIII in an encyclical in 1829, Pope Gregory XVI in an encyclical in 1832, Pope Pius IX in an encyclical in 1846, and Pope Leo XIII in Humanum Genus, a papal encyclical in 1884. Now that's a whole lot of condemnation of Freemasonry, and that's not all. In 1917, the Church imposed the penalty of excommunication on Catholics who become Freemasons. The 1917 Code of Canon Law states, "Those giving your name to Masonic sects or other associations of this sort that machinate against the Church or legitimate civil powers contract by that fact excommunication, simply reserved to the Apostolic See." And of course, as with all things Catholic, things tend to get a little bit tricky. So the Code of Canon Law was revised in 1983. Somehow or another, while the penalty was implied in the revised code, Freemasonry wasn't mentioned specifically. The code states, "A person who joins an association which plots against the Church is to be punished with a just penalty. One who promotes or takes office in such an association is to be punished with an interdict." And as usual, some jump to the erroneous conclusion that the Church's position on Freemasonry no longer applied. To clear this up, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, under Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future and now former Pope, issued a statement indicating that the penalty did in fact remain in effect. It's a pretty short statement, so I'm going to read it all in its entirety. It has been asked whether there has been any change in the Church's decision in regard to Masonic associations since the new Code of Canon Law does not mention them expressly, unlike the previous code. The Sacred Congregation is in a position to reply that this circumstance is due to an editorial criterion which was followed also in the case of other associations, likewise unmentioned, inasmuch as they are contained in wider categories. Therefore, the Church's negative judgment in regard to Masonic association remains unchanged, since their principles have always been considered irreconcilable with the doctrine of the Church, and therefore membership in them remains forbidden. The faithful who enroll in Masonic associations are in a state of grave sin and may not receive Holy Communion. It is not within the competence of local ecclesiastical authorities to give a judgment on the nature of Masonic associations, which would imply a derogation from what has been decided above. And this is in line with the declaration of this sacred congregation issued on 17 February 1981. In an audience granted to the undersigned Cardinal Prefect, the Supreme Pontiff John Paul II, approved and ordered the publication of this declaration, which had been decided in an ordinary meeting of this sacred congregation. Rome, from the office of the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, 26 November 1983, signed Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger, Prefect. The Church once again reaffirmed its position forbidding Catholics from becoming Freemasons in 2023, responding to a question from a bishop in the Philippines. And again in February 2024, following a meeting between some church leaders and Masons in Milan, Italy. On that occasion, a church official present erroneously stated an evolution in mutual understanding had taken place between the Church and the Masons in the last 50 years and called for a permanent dialogue between the entities. Within a few days, the president of the Pontifical Academy of Theology corrected that assertion by reaffirming the Church's long-standing position forbidding Catholics from membership in Masonic organizations. So that's the undisputed Church position on Freemasonry. The same Church that has the power to forgive our sins and to bind and loose on earth and in heaven. So at long last, it looks like Joe Biden has managed to excommunicate himself. But that's way over my pay grade. And this channel is really about encouraging Catholics to learn their faith so they can grow in holiness. There are many people who think these anti-Catholic organizations are a thing of the past. Well, I live in the South, and I can tell you can't swing a dead cat down here without hitting a Masonic lodge. At the risk of dating myself, when I drive by these things at night, I half expect to see them dancing around in their goatskin pants like Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks in the 1987 movie Dragnet. All kidding aside, I'm sure a lot of people who get involved with the Masons do so at a low level and may even have good intentions. Sadly, I've got a good friend who became a Mason, and he seems to think they're pretty harmless too. I would strongly encourage anyone thinking about joining a group like this to watch a few interviews with Catholic exorcists. They're all over YouTube. The devil and his minions are all legalistic creatures. They're bound by God's laws, and they know them well, better than we do. But like any good lawyer, they'll lie and cheat to get you to do what they want you to do. And once you do, you can be damn sure they're going to hold you to it. Sadly, like my friend, many who become Freemasons are Protestants to begin with. They're already at odds with the Church and probably have no idea what the Church thinks about Freemasonry. And if they did, they wouldn't care. But think of it from the devil's perspective. You already oppose the Church. That's strike one. You belong to a false Protestant church. That's strike two. And then you swear an oath to join the devil's church. That's strike three, and you're out. You might as well mosey on down to the crossroads and sign your life away in blood for all the devil cares. He's got you dead to rights. You have opened not one, but 3 doors to him, and the last one by swearing a blood oath. He can just waltz right in and set up shop. You may pinky swear that you had your fingers crossed during the ceremony and didn't really mean it, but a contract is a contract. So, good luck with that one. The devil can and does tempt all of us. That's the normal way he's permitted to tempt us. He even tempted our Lord Jesus. But he cannot oppress or possess you unless you surrender your will to him. Exorcists warn that one of the most common ways to open the door to the devil is through the occult, and Freemasonry is an occult practice. That's why as Catholics we adhere to the teaching of the Church, which is truth. The rules established by the Church, even excommunication, are not meant to punish us. They're guidelines to keep us on the narrow road that leads to heaven and away from the broad road that leads to destruction. That's the reason Jesus left us a church to begin with. If you like this video, please take a moment to like it and share it with others. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, siempre adelante.